God damn it, Trigger! I'll expand on that later, but if you're familiar with Studio Trigger and their habits, I'm sure you can probably already piece together what I'm referring to, even without seeing this movie. As of writing this script, I just recently went out to see the Promare premiere at my local theater. Now, I am unabashedly a huge fan of Studio Trigger and their works. Their characters, art styles, world building, and so on have almost always completely enraptured me. So when Promare was announced, I was ecstatic. I could not wait for this. And then I saw their poster for it, with what looked like what was hashtag definitely not Kamina. And I grew mildly concerned that it was just going to be another Gurren Lagann. And then I saw what was, frankly, a very shitty trailer that seemed more to emphasize Gurren Lagann and Kill la Kill, and told me nothing really about Promare. And those concerns were exacerbated. So I ultimately went into the movie with high hopes, but also a bit of fear. But let me tell you, once the theater went dark and the movie started, I was petrified by what I saw. The opening to the movie started out trying to be fairly serious, setting the background for the world and how society was shaped into what we would end up seeing, but it was done in such a goofy way that the theater erupted into laughter at scenes that very much did not strike me as trying to get that reaction. We were also introduced to the movie's more simplistic art style. I don't know if simplistic is the word I want to use here, but it sounds right, so I'm sticking with it. It didn't really seem too bad yet, so I wasn't too concerned. But then we got our sweeping shots showing off the city in all its glory, and it was not good. It was done with an air of, "Oh, look at us, we're Trigger, look at our masterpiece," arrogance, but it didn't have the appeal to back it up. I was very worried that I had just bought a ticket I was going to severely regret. But then, Trigger switched gears and started doing what it does best. That's right, everyone, bait and switch. Promare was an absolutely fantastic movie, though not without faults. I don't intend for this video to be a particularly long one, but I am going to try to go category by category and give my take on Trigger's latest piece, what worked and what didn't, and give my final opinion on what was, essentially, Trigger's love letter to Trigger. So, a real quick synopsis of the movie's basic plot. After an event known as the Great World Blaze, Earth is now inhabited by a small number of mutants who have developed pyrokinetic powers. Among them is an organization known as Mad Burnish, responsible for several terrorist attacks. The organization that our main character, Gallo Thymos, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, belongs to, Burning Rescue, is responsible for combating the attacks and taking this organization down. Now, with that out of the way, I gotta start with what I feel is honestly the movie's biggest strength. This soundtrack was bumpin'! Whether it was setting a more somber emotional moment, getting you pumped up for a fight, or getting you fucking pumped up for a fight. The soundtrack was phenomenal at doing its job and left my roommates and I desperately wanting to find the soundtrack once we got home. It carried the flow of the action and adrenaline of the characters astoundingly well, and drills each note straight into your goddamn soul. And I don't care how over the top that may sound, the soundtrack was just so good. The fights were incredible fun, and really the true reason to see the movie. The simplistic art style they used worked splendidly for their action, allowing gorgeously smooth and fluid moves and actions. Each exchanged blow keeping me on the edge of my seat. And I know how controversial this can be, but I'm saying it, they had good CGI. Good. Look at this boy. Look at him! The CGI sets him off from the rest of the animation, yes, but it does so in a way that paints him as, I am a badass who is out of your league, just fucking try me. There's one collection of scenes in particular that I completely adored and had me damn near giddy while I was watching them. But they come from late enough in the movie that I don't really want to show them here, so I'll just leave it as these 4 words. Goddamn fire dragon. Now, the art worked great for these fights, but that doesn't mean it worked well for everything. The shots that were more static, things like just buildings and the like, were incredibly boring and unappealing to look at. There was one scene in particular where, without saying too much, a building gets demolished and brought down. But it looked akin to an early art student's school animation project, not something by a professional studio for a theatrical release. It was not good. The art worked great for the parts that it did work for, but it blew chunks for the parts it didn't. Moving on to characters, although most of the crew ends up not really mattering at all and are downgraded to glorified background characters, those that we do have are incredibly fun, vibrant, unique, and sometimes even a bit more complex. I was worried that hashtag definitely not Kamina here was going to be, well, Kamina. And at the start of the movie, yes, that was very much what we got. But as we kept going, we got to learn that he had a tad more going on underneath, actual internal struggles and conflicts that are masked by his bravado. Unfortunately, for as unique an assortment of characters as we have in this movie, we don't really get the same kind of insight into the majority of them. But when you have less than 2 hours versus an entire series to explore them, that can be forgiven at least a little bit. As far as the writing for Promare goes, look, Trigger knew what they wanted this movie to be. A fun, high-paced, high-action thrill ride with pretty colors. And they nailed that. They weren't trying to write a complex masterpiece, or at least, holy shit, I hope not. The story beats were pretty predictable, true natures of certain characters could be seen a mile away, and most importantly, skip to the time below to avoid spoilers, even though it's not much of one, fucking aliens. Or, sorry, beings from a parallel dimension or some bull honky. At the very least, this revelation of aliens didn't really mean too much as far as the plot was concerned. Their being aliens had no real impact, and the story could have remained exactly the same without that fact. Which begs the question as to why they felt it necessary, but whatever, if Trigger's got a hard-on for aliens, then I guess we just have to accept that and move on. All in all, Promare was an absolute blast to watch. It was high action, had some great comedic timing, and was truly an over-the-top love letter to Trigger's other notable works. It was very self-aware and knew what it was doing and what it wanted to be. It didn't try to be coy, it didn't try to be subtle. Hell, the turning point saving grace of the characters in the story was literally referred to, in the story, as Deus Ex Machina. But if you've enjoyed Trigger's past works, as I have, you are bound to find an abundance of joy in this movie. Though I do recommend watching with friends and not alone. I feel like the high energy it gives its viewers is honestly contagious, so the more people you can get rocking out along to the absolutely incredible soundtrack as Trigger flexes what it does best, the better the experience is going to be. Thank you so much for watching, and a big thank you to my current patrons. If you wouldn't mind swinging by my Patreon, link below, and considering donating to help me out, I'd super appreciate any help you can give. Until next time, I'm CJ Pecor, the Angry Avocado, and I still don't have a sign-off.